I'm going to try something new.
All right,
I think I told you. We're going to pick, at the end of each episode, we have these 3 questions. Who from this movie would have a podcast?
Yeah.
Who from this movie would have a TV spinoff? And then we have a wild card question. And I decided we'll pick it now at the beginning of the episode. And we'll just... How we'll pick it. I have them numbered. So you pick a number. And all
right.
Between 1 and 30, sorry.
27.
Okay. 27. Character most likely to end up on Broadway.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So
I actually have some theories about that.
Yeah. Later we're going to talk.
This was a wild one.
Oh. Yeah. Did we say enough funny stuff that I can say it's the Steady Bimco show? The show where we talk about teenage angst and humor on TV, the movies, and in real life. And there were a lot of teenagers of a hippie type in this movie that we're going to talk about later. Beware the Blob.
Oh.
I know.
That's what you're going to claim.
Teenagers.
I don't think they were. Again, they lived by themselves. They had roommates. They had jobs, and there was no mention of school.
That's right. They're just out of school. They're 19.
It's the Steady Bimco Show. Many podcasts make big promises, but this podcast promises not to make any promises.
Wait, but is it... All right, Tim, let's address the mission statement of Steady Bimco. Is it looking back on your teenage years, or isn't it specifically the traumas of high school?
You can look back on your teenage years, like these hippie teenagers.
Well, I think you need to address this. I feel like, both as an occasional host and a fan, that it's been straying pretty far from the premise. There's no guests anymore. I know that's because of Natalie Kim. She killed the guests for all time. But like, there's no guests talking about their stuff, and I don't think there's ever been a child in any of these
scouts
movies.
In this one.
Yeah, which I will get to that. That was interesting.
Well, before we talk about the movie, didn't anything exciting happen to you or not?
Yeah.
Or are you trying to avoid it?
Let's see. Well, what did funny happen this week? Let's see. I'm home. So as we're recording this, I know this is going to air in the new year, but this is shortly before the birthday of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Cristo. I'm currently manning my house alone. My partner has gone down to Florida to be with her family, and I'm hosting a miniature family reunion in my house tomorrow, all by myself. Yeah, I got my cousin and her children coming in from France. I got my cousin and her girlfriend coming in from the other side of Brooklyn, not even that far away. And I got my mom and brother coming in. We're gonna eat bagels, and we're going to
the French
drink mimosas.
The French,
let me tell you something. She is I don't think she has any French blood. I think she's just moved to France.
They like mimes
because she's just they like mimes. French like mimes. They like baguettes.
Put posters of mimes on the wall. Say sorry.
They like comics. I'm just not going to talk to them the whole time they're here. I'm just going to pretend to be trapped in a box and see if they know how to get me out. They have to find the invisible key.
Good joke.
Yeah, that's my life. I'm just
mimes.
You're the one who wrote mimes. You fucking hack.
I'm yelling at myself.
Oh. Is that what Steady Bimco is going to turn into? Eventually it's just going to be you like just castigating yourself. Tim, this morning when you were buying milk, the woman said, "What's up?" You said, "I don't know, the sky."
Jeez.
That was a bad joke. Could have done better.
That's a good idea. And speaking of bagels.
Yes.
I sent you the story. I don't know if it's worth mentioning. You probably didn't.
Let's mention it.
That a bear in North Carolina stole some lady's bagels off her back porch.
Oh, wait. I didn't see that story.
And the only reason I bring it up is because, those bagels are terrible. Have you ever had a bagel anywhere besides Brooklyn or New York?
Man, for a long time when I would in my travels around the country and even the world, I would do that just for the sake of it. But they always suck.
Terrible.
it's like pizza. Sometimes you could get good pizza outside New York. Like, I'm not such an elitist. In fact, some of my favorite pizza is in other places. But the bagel situation, man, I feel like even going to Jersey, you're kind of risking it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Jersey City's got good bagels.
And going to bring those bagels back anyway. There's my joke. He's going to bring those bagels back.
Tim, this joke.
Because he found out they were bad and they were raisin cinnamon. We're going to talk about this movie about teenagers in the early 70s who are hippies.
Oh, man, they're not teenagers.
This is Larry Hagman's Beware of the Blob.
Larry Hagman.
He directed it.
Of Dallas fame, and he had a small role.
Yeah, he was a hobo.
And he looked good.
He just had to be a hobo. What do you mean?
Yeah, no, because it was Larry Hagman. Every time I'd ever seen him, it was. I don't think I've ever watched an episode of Dallas, but like I've seen.
You never watched
him
I Dream
Dallas.
of Jeannie?
Oh, was he one of the Darrens?
No, I Dream of Jeannie. It was a genie, not a witch, and he was general. He was astronaut. Something
like Dexter.
You've never seen it.
I don't know. I
can't believe you never saw one episode.
I may have. So my whole policy towards live action television growing up as a kid, because that probably was played after cartoons. I would watch the cartoon openings to these shows.
Okay.
The only ones I would really watch were the Munsters and the Addams Family, because they're kind of cartoons anyway.
Yes.
But like I would watch the opening of Batman. I would watch the opening of Bewitched. The cartoon was exciting to me, but like once they came on, I'm like, ugh.
Huh.
Where's the cartoons? All I wanted to watch was cartoons.
I did that with a show. What show did I watch the beginning of? Oh, the news. I would watch the news, watch it open, and I'd be like, okay, now it's boring. Like the theme songs.
They didn't mention my campaign of terror this week.
Love the theme songs. Anyway.
So Larry Hagman was J.R. Ewing on Dallas, and I only saw him wearing a big stupid hat and like a bolo tie. Like he looked dumb. He looked stupid. But in this, he looks like a normal human. He's got a beard. I'm like, Larry Hagman's a hunky dude.
His son was in it too. Who was the main Boy Scout. We'll get to that. I saw him in the credits and I looked him up.
The one with the lighter?
Yes.
Nice.
So I'll give a quick synopsis. It's kind of a sequel to the original Blob, where they brought the Blob to the Antarctic, didn't tell anybody about it, didn't put a warning sign on it. And in this movie...
I have a question. Can I interrupt really quickly?
Okay.
Did that actually happen at the end of the original Blob? They bring it to the Antarctic?
Yep, with the helicopter. It's the last scene.
Really?
You never saw that show either.
Right. I saw it as a kid. It scared the fuck out of me. The part when the hobo curls up his arm. It curls up the hobo's arm.
Yeah.
I was very scared of that as a kid.
Wow.
And so the Blob always held a spot of real terror for me. Like he seemed scarier than other monster movies.
Our character Chester brings back a canister of this Blob stuff back home, not knowing what it is, not telling anybody, and his wife
puts it in his freezer.
Yeah. His wife gets it out, defrosts, and basically terrorizes a California town full of hippies. And as we'll get to it, I think everybody in that town was stoned.
I would believe that.
Every person. He goes on a killing spree until they find a way to freeze it again. Spoilers. That's pretty much all there is to the plot. There's no character arc for any character. No, there's no character arc.
You're probably right. There is no character arc. It's a lot of the scenes are barely even connected. It's just like kind of so. This movie though makes some good choices. I feel like weird choices.
Yeah.
The opening, it's also known as the Son of the Blob in some markets, by the way. But the version that Tim and I watched definitely was Beware of the Blob. It's written like you see the type written in melted Twizzlers.
Yes.
And then I'm not even exaggerating. Like throughout the entire opening credits, which must be, I'd say, between 3 to 5 minutes, it's just a kitten.
Yes, with the happy music.
Happy music playing with like a really young kitten. Like when kittens kind of so stupid they don't really know how to walk right and they just meow a lot. But just in a field.
The music would have a crescendo of people screaming. Am I right?
Did it?
Yes, it did. People were screaming at certain parts. Then it would go back to happy. You don't remember that? Did you pass forward through the credits?
I'll be, in the past, listeners, I have taken copious notes. I got not too far into this one until I'm like, this is not a movie to take notes to.
Well, I took them.
Did you?
So what?
It was so. I have a lot of notes about the opening, and then after that, it's kind of like,
okay.
what? Right about the time the naked wrestler guy's running around the town, I'm like, I think I'm going to stop writing and just enjoy this ride. Tim did warn me. He's like, you should be high when you watch this. Unfortunately, I was not high, so I don't know if I got it.
Well, first it starts with Chester trying out his camping gear in his house, and this looks like a student film. All the scenes.
What the? Wait, you interpreted as he was trying it out? Yeah. I interpreted that Chester just does that.
No, his wife said, you get back from the Antarctic and you're going to go camping first thing? And he goes, that's not the first thing I do. You don't remember that?
I remember that because Chester and his wife definitely fuck, which good for them. I took it that he wasn't going to go camping. I took it as that fucking Chester just is a weirdo who just sits in his living room in a tent. Well, because he is fully...
Everyone in this movie...
He didn't try this out.
Is high.
They're weird. Yeah. He doesn't build his tent outside. He's not an apartment building. He has full yard around him.
Yes.
A pretty wooded area, it seems. He sets up a full campsite in his living room and then is drinking comically huge beers.
Well, wait, you're missing. His wife goes away and he looks around all sneaky, opens up his cooler. He's got a bunch of beer and he starts pouring it all in one giant container. What way is that to drink beer?
It was like us at Oktoberfest.
But his wife comes back and she's like, "Oh, you and your beer." And he's like,
she calls him.
Really
here's
matter.
a note. She calls him a total dingaling.
Yes.
She goes, "Chester, you're a total dingaling."
And he's just drinking all the beer out of one giant glass.
Chester's great. I actually really liked Chester.
I do like him too.
Yeah, he had a funny hat. A lot of characters have funny hats in this. He and his wife have a loving relationship. They definitely have a lot of sex.
And he's worried about, I don't know if you notice this, he's like, damn, TV reception won't come in. They showed he's watching. He's watching the original Blob. You can see it clear as day. No reception problem because he's very high. Everybody in this town is just very high.
Now, is it possible that Chester, given the fact that we see him consume easily 2 6-packs in the first 5 minutes,
yes,
is maybe he not high, but in fact cripplingly drunk?
That could be. Says if we don't have to say Chester is like the third victim, he sits in the Blob because the Blob ate a fly and the kitten. Sorry, the kitten, the happy kitten, the Blob ate.
It's so well, and his wife.
And his wife. That's right. That's right.
And actually, so I have actually, it's been years, not since it was out, but I saw the original. I'm not the original. I saw the Blob remake in the 80s where it shot tendrils of slime off.
Oh, I never saw that one. I got to watch that one.
It's I remember it being pretty fun. I don't know if it's good. Although actually I was too lazy to get up after YouTube and an auto documentary played. So I kind of was hearing a documentary about the making of that after watching this.
Really?
So I'm like, I'm going to watch a movie again.
The making of the third one?
The remake. Yeah. The 80s version with Matt Dillon. But this Blob does that a little bit too. They do it with reverse footage. The kitten, obviously hits the Blob, which is just sticky jelly.
Yeah.
And they play it reverse. It looks like it grabs his paw, but they kill the kitten, which I was like, I don't like this movie.
Not in real life.
No, they did.
What do you mean?
So you didn't watch the documentary?
No, you said documentary of the 80s one.
I know.
You can't fool me. You can't fool me.
No.
You're not gonna,
but you know what, Tim?
You're gonna bring me down with kittens, man. Killing kittens.
This movie is from 1972. You know what? That cat's probably dead already.
No. That cat can't be dead.
That cat's definitely dead. Tim, probably most of the actors in this movie are dead. Larry Hagman, pretty sure he's dead.
Yes, he is.
Burgess Meredith is in this movie. That guy's dead.
So,
did you catch that Del Close is in this?
Yes.
Now, before we go any further, I have to mention this part. Del Close, for those of you who don't know, is most famous as the man who invented the Chicago style of improv. He basically trained the people who made UCB, and the improv craze that sweeps our nation has its roots in Del Close. And he's in this movie, and this movie is all fucking improv.
And
I'm like...
It is. Did you read it? Because
No, I didn't.
The scriptwriter said, at some point they started ignoring my script and doing their own thing.
Yeah, that's clear. So I was pretty excited. I'm like, wow, this is where Del Close got his improv from or something. I don't know. He has an eye patch. He also looks good.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, Chester's wife gets eaten.
Debbie, is that her name? She comes by. Debbie and Bobby are the girlfriend, boyfriend here. We got to introduce.
Oh yeah, the
young teenagers.
Listeners, these are the quote unquote teenagers.
Sure.
No, they never go to school.
This is one night.
They live at home. Their best friend is Chester, who is a man who is an Arctic driller with his own business. He's eccentric, certainly. He puts up camping equipment in his living room, but he and his wife definitely, I would say they're at least in their 30s.
I got to tell you something about Chester.
Yeah.
What's his real name? He was an up-and-coming comedian along with Nipsey Russell and Bill Cosby.
Really?
Yes.
He looked familiar. Did something terrible happen to him?
This movie? No, I don't know.
Besides the way of the kitten?
His portrayal of stoned camper in living room. It didn't win him any awards.
Well, yeah, so this girl comes.
Who hides beer.
Oh my God. His name is Chester Hargis in the movie. That's great.
Yes. The girl comes to visit Chester. We don't know why, but she finds him.
Let's say woman, because she's definitely not a teenager.
This teenage girl comes and finds Chester being eaten
definitely
in his chair
40.
by jelly.
Oh, he's just covered. It looks like they took strawberry jam and covered him head to toe, and he's just in the chair. He has very nice teeth because they zoom very tight close-ups in this movie.
Because you don't want to see the jelly.
Yeah, and he's just going, and she screams and she runs out, and she goes on a crazy driving bender across town, which would seem to be weird, but it actually plays an important part.
Well, this is the first encounter with, his name is... Damn it.
Well, there's the rink owner.
Oh, Edward Fuzzle or something. Fuzzy. This is the first encounter because Edward is drunk or stoned because he's always transporting large quantities of beer to his house or somewhere. And this is the first encounter where she knocks over his beer because she's driving fast, although the film is speeded up. What?
Yeah, what? Why? Because he's like the straight-laced guy. Why is he bringing so much beer?
It was the 70s.
I know what we forgot, speaking of the 70s. On her way to the house, before she sees Chester Hargis being eaten by the blob, we hear, before we see him, the unmistakably irritating tones of Dick Van Patten playing a Boy Scout troop leader who should definitely not be near children. He speaks weirdly. He's upsetting.
He's upset with Betty.
He's like, listen, children.
Miss Clark.
And they all say...
Sorry.
Why? He's upset with her?
Obsessed with Miss Clark.
Oh, obsessed. Yeah,
he's like, good morning, Miss Clark. Good morning, Miss Clark.
And he does this weird sing-song thing with all the kids where he makes them repeat after him, and he's terrible.
He's terrible.
And I feel like, is there something with...
What?
Is there something with Dick Van Patten in real life? Is he like a bad person? Is he like the guy from Ain't
No.
The Ain't Enough guy? That guy was a molester. It's like Dick Van Patten also...
We got enough real ones. We don't have to...
Not Eight is Enough was Dick Van Patten. Which is the one...
No, Eight is Enough is the show he was in.
Which is the one the guy from Star Trek the movie was in, and that guy's a molester.
Star Trek. Oh, Seventh Heaven.
Seventh
Heaven. I heard he was accused.
I remember the numbers.
What was that? 17 and counting, that show. That guy's a molester.
Tim, do you realize what these all have in common? They all have numbers in the title.
Yeah.
Seventh Heaven, 17 and counting,
but
8 is enough.
8 enough is okay.
Three's Company. Right. Everybody knows that the first, Suzanne Summers, she killed that guy.
Who? What guy? Oh, yeah.
Who else? What other shows have numbers in it?
Numbers. Sesame Street.
Sesame Street? Oh! There was that one guy in Sesame Street. What was it, David?
The Count.
He was in some of the first ones. No, not the Count. He was a real person, not a Muppet. David got involved in something.
No, come on. You're bringing this show down.
Yeah. I know. Let's not...
There's enough strange people in this movie. Yeah, so the scout, they run up a hill that they've never made it to the top of before. That's important.
Yep.
Because once the camera shows the hill, it's like, that hill? That tiny hill?
Yeah. Well, like,
in California.
He definitely has a problem. Dick Van Patten, like, I don't know what's wrong with him. I don't know what's wrong with the real Dick Van Patten, but, like, this character.
Right.
There's something wrong with this guy.
So Betty Betty's having a surprise party for her boyfriend, Bobby. Is it Bobby?
I didn't write down their names.
I have the notes here. I just don't want to move it. His name is
he's got
Bobby. Yes. And Lisa. Bobby and Lisa. Sorry.
Bobby and Lisa.
Bobby's having a surprise birthday party with all his hippie teenage friends.
Yeah, there's the guy who dresses up as a gorilla for some reason.
He's a I looked up all these people. We'll tell you. I think he's a Christian rock singer now.
Oh, that sucks.
One of them, the bearded guy, he's the voice of Brainy Smurf.
Wait, really?
Yes.
That guy was the worst, too. Shirley Feeney from Laverne and Shirley is there.
She's in it. And her boyfriend.
Which, the guy that you were trying to remember, the guy whose beer keeps running over, I remember his name was Fazio, because I was wondering if there was a connection.
Edward Fazio.
Yep. I was like, is this like a Laverne and Shirley reference? Because they got Shirley. And her boyfriend is, I'm pretty sure, our old studio mate, Jason Little, the cartoonist. Look him up. You'll know what this guy looks like.
Who can't? He's a real musician, too, after playing like
really?
that. Yes.
Oh, I hated him.
And one of them, I think,
not Jason Little, this guy.
He's the blonde teenager. He's now a big innovator in the Christian rock scene.
God, that's the guy dressed up as the gorilla?
No, the blonde teenager.
I thought that guy was blonde.
Maybe that was him. Yeah.
Listeners, there is at the party scene.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy who dresses up as a gorilla, and he's doing hooting and hollering noises. And it's a fairly good costume. Because this movie's so out there, I actually thought like, oh, there's a gorilla at this party. Like, I wasn't in real life, I wouldn't be fooled. But for this movie, I'm like, yeah, this is the sort of movie where there'd be just a gorilla. But he takes his mask off later. I'm like, oh shit, it's that guy.
Yep.
He's dressed up as a gorilla. Yeah, that guy dies good.
I forget. Oh yeah, that's right. He's an idiot. But
yeah, he sucks. He's the worst of them all.
Lisa drags Bobby to the house to show him where people died, and they run into the Edward with his beer again, and
they run over his beer again.
And the cops are very high because there's like, calm down, it's just a car speeding. Tried running over, calm down. And Edward's like, come on, kill these people.
Yeah, Edward's definitely like, you have to shoot them. So they go to the house, and there's a lot of tension, but they never discover the bodies.
No, there's no bodies.
We don't. Yeah, because the blob, of course, has completely dissolved them, and also it doesn't even leave slime trails. Like This thing is neat, and they're in the house, and that's when the cops show up.
Right, it's suddenly nighttime. By the way, they got there in daytime. They looked around for 10 minutes.
Looking around for a long time.
I think,
and there is such a long scene where the cop, you don't see him; it's just him talking off camera, like, "Step out of the house."
That's right.
Somebody died. Where's the body? I'm like, did they not hire an actor? And then after this goes on for, I'm not even kidding, like maybe 3 minutes, they step out of the house and walk all the way over, and they pan over, and the guy was there the whole time. I'm like, why the hell did you choose? It's a continuous shot. It's a continuous shot where he's just off camera for like ever.
Did we mention that Edward is played by Richard Stahl? He's a famous actor who's like, he's appeared in a lot of things.
Well, there's a lot of like pretty famous people in this. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, he's always been a character actor. Never made it super big. But Richard Stahl.
Huh. That's the guy who played Edward Fazio, the guy whose beer keeps getting run over. You wouldn't know it, but maybe like one of our 3 main characters.
Yes.
As it turns out. But you don't really, at first you would never guess.
I do have a note here that we go to see the scout band. The band of scouts.
I think into this note, I think I have the same one.
For some stupid joke about they have to borrow toilet paper from some farmers. Is that what you're?
Oh, that was weird.
Those farmers are laughing like, gotta borrow toilet paper, eh?
And they're like, bring back when you're done. It's like, oh, you want shitty kid covered. No, the part I was talking about, which I have a note here, because this is why I think
he's
as evidence for my Dick Van Patten is a bad person theory. I'm putting forth on this.
Mm-hmm.
Dick Van Patten picks a mustard flower, gives it to the girl he's obsessed with.
Ah.
And then when he's telling the kids about it, he's like, mustard, like the mustard you put on your little hot dogs.
He didn't say that.
Tim, I swear to you, I wrote it down. He goes, your little hot dogs. I paused the movie, wrote it down. I'm like, this fucking pervert. 8 is enough, fucker.
Oh my God. He was just ad-libbing it.
Yeah, that's exactly. So this wasn't the scriptwriter's fault. This is what happened. You let Dick Van Patten around a bunch of kids, You let him free reign. This is what happens. Why do you think later he gets killed unceremoniously off camera? Spoilers. Yep.
Because for my
because
or does
Dick
he?
Van Patten had to. Oh well, no, he does. He definitely does.
That's what I guess. That's why the farmers are laughing when he borrowed the toilet paper. He's like, I'm not using this for my butt.
No, he uses it to make a fire.
The kids do.
What follows next? Like, I feel like we need to. I don't remember the exact order, but we're treated to a lot of vignettes around town as the Blob kills different characters.
Oh,
yes.
One more thing about Scouts. You're a little bit younger than me, but they all had clankers or clackers. Do you even know what those things are? They were clacking balls together that were on a string, and he kept taking them away. Not
only them, Larry Hagman had it later, too.
Oh,
I'm like, what is this?
I'll explain that.
Okay, I don't...
He was not just a hobo.
I know... Oh.
Hobo murderer.
Wait.
But they made them illegal because kids would start smacking them really hard, and they're made of like glass-like material, and they would shatter and, kill people. That's true. It's illegal. Along with that watery head thing. Dude, what was that called? From Hasbro, you attach your hose to it, and it makes the head fly around. Makes the hose fly around. I guess I hit some kids in the head. Like, oh,
nice. Kids always get.
You never saw an ad for that? I guess that.
I had a toy growing up that was a clown, and you would put the hose into it, and it had a clown hat.
Yeah.
And it would shoot water through the top of its head, and the hat would fly in the air.
Ah, was it made of metal? Did it kill people?
No, it was plastic.
All right.
But we did have lawn darts. My grandfather had lawn darts.
To say, did the clown hat have a lawn dart glued to it?
No, the lawn darts are removable and easily chokeable on.
Yes, that's why they're banned.
So Tim, the clackers, which we see repeatedly, like there's a whole shtick where noted pervert Dick Van Patten keeps removing them from the kids. Mm-hmm. Then later, when we see Larry Hagman, who is part of the triumvirate of hobos with fucking Burgess Meredith and Del Close, he has it. Is that because he killed?
Well, let's not get ahead to the ending.
I don't know what the order of these scenes are.
No, I mean, who has a TV show?
Oh, spoilers.
No, he picked Van Patten, took those little clackers away, and said, "I got to put mustard on these little balls." There you go.
Yes, and Tim. Yes, and
terrible joke. Okay, so the vignettes, the hippies.
Oh, and did you wait before we get to that? The people giving the toilet paper say, "Watch out for Wolverines."
Yes, I heard that.
I'm like writing that down too.
But they thought it was hilarious. They needed toilet paper.
Yep. Does the scout leader shit in the woods? Yes.
That's the funniest thing they'd seen since I don't know. Henry got his hands stuck in the vending machine down at the public restroom. Yeah, that's the best I can come up with off the top of my head.
All right. I want to hear the recriminations later. Tim, you could have come up with something better. Come on. Why was his name Henry?
Sticking to the character.
All right.
So the hippies, they sing in the drainage pipe for some reason. Oh, because they're smoking pot. Yeah. But this whole town is high, so I don't know why they're hiding.
It's fumes for the rest of the town. This is built on a dump.
And the police somehow know they're down there. I don't know how the police. They were going to go smoke pot there, I think. The police are like, yeah.
Isn't it that they hear the music? Don't they actually explain that part? Believe it or not,
George, you're stepping on my jokes.
Oh no! All right, wait, take it out. Start again.
Never mind.
I want to hear your joke, so it's gonna be good.
I said it. I said the cops are going down there to get high. Also, that's all. That's all.
That's
not a big joke.
I think that's probably true.
So they give him a hard time, man. And the blob comes down behind the police and doesn't touch him, but
and they're going. Him. Yeah, and they're going, look out, man, behind you. There's something, man.
I'm tripping, man.
Yeah, and he's like, you think I'm stupid? I'm not going to turn around. Oh, and then he does.
Yep. And now after this, George.
Yep.
You know who Shelley Berman is? He's the barber in this movie. And he's famous because he won the first Grammy for comedy album. He's like an old guy.
Oh, my God.
He was in Teen Witch. And
Teen Witch.
And he's been on Curb Your Enthusiasm. He was alive for a long time.
Wow.
So he was a comedian. And is this not the barber scene? Can we talk about the barber scene?
Yeah, let's do it.
Because he's sitting in there looking like, well, he's high. Everybody's high. He's just sitting there looking around the barber shop like bored. And a hippie shows up in the window who's like peeking in the window with a wig. Did that look like a bad wig?
I was going to ask you because the only reason I think it's not a wig is because it does get wet. And I'm like, that looks pretty good wet. It looked terrible on his head. But when he was wet, I'm like, maybe.
But he's peeking in the barber shop.
Because he's high.
It's a total improv sketch that goes nowhere. He's like, I want to get my hair cut. And he's like, I don't know. He's like, you do? Well, it's going to cost $400. He's like, I don't know, man.
$200.
Let's check the
champagne.
money in my pockets. There's money in this pocket, man. And he just takes it. I don't know how much it was. It was.
He gets to two of his pockets, and the funny, famous guy is like, nah, man, you don't need to check all your pockets. It's like, yeah, he does. That might be all he has. If you really want $400.
It was a weird. They must have made that up on the spot.
Yeah, it was definitely like a weird bit. Like, and you're right. The problem with this is the improv. It's the problem with all improv, really. Like, improv is hard to pull off. And sometimes, like, I have seen some awesome improv that is hilarious, and my girlfriend and I will quote it still to this day from a one-off appearance from years ago. But then there's a lot of improv that's just like this garbage, where it's just like, it doesn't quite get off the ground.
Like you and me talking.
Yeah, like this entire episode. Well, so, I mean, the blob gets in the sink, and then they wash the guy's hair, and then the blob eats his face and eats the.
They don't show that. That wasn't even his arm.
Nope.
When the blob's on his arm, I'm like, oh, they had to reshoot this because it can't see his face, can't see the sink.
That's a good. Yeah, that was like that improv scene of the haircut thing. Probably like Hagman's like in the editing booth. He's like, how on earth did this go on for 3 hours? Just fuck it. The blob eats the guy's head.
It was a long sketch, people. The hippie was like, yeah, I want to get my hair washed. And the
weird.
barber was like,
all right.
Oh, I'm a sculptor. Some sculpt in...
he kept mentioning Michelangelo
marble,
marble.
And I sculpt in hair.
Yeah.
He
was very aggro. I didn't like him. If I was that hippie, I'd be like, fuck you. I'm going to go across the street.
Well, they were all high.
They were all high.
Yeah, so that was like
$400 treatment.
That's what you call one of those interesting kills. Blob comes up from the sewer. They're trying to make it fun.
The Blob does a lot of that too, because then there's a scene which starts very abruptly where there's a big, large, naked man with no hair whatsoever
and dog
in his tub with his little tiny Yorkshire Terrier.
They're very high.
Because they're very high.
He's wearing sorry, I'm interrupting.
A fez. He's wearing a fez, of course. And the Blob is. It's not coming through the drain, actually. It's coming under the bathroom door, isn't it?
It gets around town.
He throws a slipper at it. He's yelling at it in like Turkish, throws a slipper at it. I guess his dog gets eaten, but the next thing we know is just like a 2-minute cut of this man running naked through town, just waving his hands above his head. Yes. And like a cop following him. And the cop is also super high. The cop's like, woo, woo. Like, and this guy's a famous wrestler, apparently.
Tiger Joe Marsh.
That's it.
I looked him up. Famous wrestler. Yeah. So they take him downtown naked, and they don't even give him a blanket. They just stare at him. Like the sheriff checks him out up and down and smiles. It was
because he lifts some stuff up and looks under it. He's like, yeah. I see why they call you Tiger,
which is fine. I'm just saying that this is
then he
1973.
goes in the back. He's like, I see why they call you Marsh.
So Bobby and Lisa's upset the whole night. Please take me home. So Bobby takes her home, and suddenly she's been upset the whole night. And once they're alone, she's like, oh, Bobby. And she's kissing him, and she's forgotten that her friends seem to have been murdered or eaten. I don't know if you noticed her change of character.
Was this before or after they go home and there's the biggest surprise party of all time happening?
Oh, it's after, because she wanted to leave the surprise party, remember?
Yeah, she freaks out. Like, everyone's laughing at her.
People were grabbing her. It was like, you
they were like,
you guys have 20 friends.
The fucking brainy Smurf gets in her face, and they're literally throwing her boyfriend around. It's
on
like
a waterbed.
With the biggest waterbed.
These are teenagers.
This is crazy shenanigans.
Teenagers.
No, definitely not teenagers. No,
only teenagers would have a waterbed, right?
No. Tim, this movie. It had children in it, And it had adults. There's not a single teenager in this
What?
movie. There's not even a mention of a high school.
It was a high school. It was
That bowling alley. It was a high school.
South Central Valley High. This was California.
Oh, you're a liar. All right, so we got dead barber. We got not dead Russian guy, but probably dead Yorkshire Terrier.
Yes.
What else?
So yeah, at that point,
Dead hippies.
They call. They're at the police station with the naked guy, and they seem to get a lot of calls. And they're like, "Geez, it's happening at night. This is going on. This guy's running around naked. There's hippies getting their hair cut." And somebody calls from the bowling alley. I think I wrote this down. He's like, "There's a big tournament at the bowling alley. That explains everything." And I was like, "What?
Well,
what does that explain?"
Because they realize at this point something's happening.
Yeah.
They need to speak to the mayor, and apparently the mayor,
the bowling alley.
who, so far as I know, was actually never introduced as a character, unless Fazio is the mayor. He's at the bowling alley.
Oh, they run over Fazio's beer again because he won't.
Yeah.
I think we got to keep Fazio in the plot. So
Yeah, he's this guy who just seems to be like a one-note joke, and like I said, ends up becoming like the third
I
protagonist.
think the kids. Well, some stuff happens here because the kids go for a drive. The gas station is empty, so he steals whatever. But the Blob is on the highway, and they wreck into it. Is that what happens?
No, the Blob is on. They're making out. They're doing kisses, and they have a discussion about like, I don't know about stealing gas. Actually, we're mixing up two events.
Bobby and Lisa.
First,
yes.
Bobby and Lisa are making out, and the Blob is on top of their car. And it's actually kind of like maybe a good scene.
Yes, it's the only okay scene because they accidentally turn on the AC and figure out it doesn't like cold.
No, they don't figure it out
Not
yet,
yet.
but they do later. Yeah. Oh, and then of
'Cause they're
course there
high.
is the scene because they're very high. There is the scene where we meet the three hobos who are hiding in a chicken farm.
Yes,
Played by Burgess Meredith,
Larry Hagman.
Larry Hagman, and Del Close.
Yes,
And they all get killed by the Blob, which is just a...
they just all
it's
walk
a
into
red-
it. Like, what's this thing?
Yeah.
Walk into it.
And Burgess Meredith, like, literally makes a dumb face and sticks his tongue out when he dies.
He does.
And he fights it. He throws wine on it. I liked this movie. Like, Burgess Meredith, I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? What's he doing in this movie? Then he does that. I'm like, yes.
You want to know? I read about it. He was Larry Hagman's neighbor.
He's
And
neighbor.
Larry
Yeah.
was like, "You want to be in my movie?" That's what
What
happened.
Hagman would say is like, do you want to be blobbed? That's what he would say
that's
to
right.
people. Which I would assume would be something akin to being teabagged.
Yes,
But they just were like, yeah, like blob me away, you hag man.
that's why. Yeah, but they all would talk about hating hippies, if you noticed.
Yep.
And Larry
there was a lot
Hagman
of-
played a hobo, and as he walked towards the Blob, he had those clackers that were taken from the scouts.
Because he killed the scout leader.
Mhm. Maybe.
Did he? Is that what we think happened?
Well, I'm not in my story. Good, let's not get to that yet.
Oh, stop. I think your story is the real story.
So the kids realize the Blob's going to the bowling alley. I guess we can say, right?
Yeah, why? Why?
I don't know. I think it's like it's right down the road. We got to warn everybody. It's not a good, not.
Yeah, I guess they're warning everybody, and maybe it's because it's so many people are there for the tournament. The Blob's going to go there to eat.
Yeah,
But
because there's
so there's some weird stuff happening in the bowling alley.
There's
like
some improv
there's
about shoe sizes. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah. Weird improv skit about a guy who's like, I need an 8.5. And he's like, we have 8s and 9s. 8's too big. Small. There's like a weird guy who's kind of dressed like Dr. Strangelove or something in a wheelchair. Yeah. And he tries fighting the Blob later with a cross, which made me laugh out loud. Oh, no. I think he's the guy who just gets thrown. Like, they just run at it and to stop it, and he flies into the Blob.
His friend makes him eat dirt, and he just throws him out of the wheelchair. But yes, the Blob does come to the bowling alley where everybody is.
And it's big now. Like, the Blob, we should have mentioned. It started off, it was so small, it was held in, like, it was like maybe like the size of like a Coke bottle.
Yeah.
And as each time it eats something, it gets bigger and bigger. Like, it's big enough to cover Chester in the beginning. And by this point, it fills the bowling alley. And it is like, it's just scenes of carnage of people just laying on the floor and like a big roll of jelly just falls on
There's
them.
the people who are fixing the pins.
Oh, yeah, that's the first one
They
to
get
get because it comes through the back.
And then it rolls down the bowling alley. I don't know if that was a model.
Yeah.
I was kind of wondering because they couldn't afford to do that full size. Like the Blob comes out of the place where the pins are. What do you call that?
Yeah, but at the same time, could they afford it to do models?
That would have been an easy model, I think, if I got the lighting right. That's just a little bowling alley.
Okay.
I don't know.
So anyway, a lot of people die here.
Yes. There's like 1,000 people at this bowling alley. They kept running out the door. 3 shots of people just running out the door for half an hour.
It goes on for a long time, and there are literally... I would say they do say at one point hundreds of people got killed there.
Yes.
I'm like, we definitely see dozens die. Like it's a catastrophe.
And of course, we find out Edward Fuso, he's the manager, and the two Fazio, and the 2 kids,
the guy whose beer keeps getting run over,
and the 2 kids who keep running over his beer, burst into his office and say, "You got to get out of here. Something's going on." And he's like, "Doe."
He's like, "You rotten kids, you stinking hippies, keep smashing my beer." They're like, "No, it's a blob." And he's like, "I don't believe you." Then they hear the screaming, and then he believes.
In fact, he had a beer in his hand, and he spilled it when they burst into the door.
Did he really?
Yeah, he missed it.
So
I delivered paper to a man who was the manager at the bowling alley when I was a kid. And to bring this back to more teenagers.
So to give it one tenuous grasp, wait, Tim, when you delivered the paper, were you actually in high school?
Junior high.
Yeah, even that. There's nothing high school.
That's junior high.
There is no high school connection. No high school connection at all with this movie, even in your life.
Well, I don't mean to be mean. It's people you get older, you don't want to be mean. But he taught me. I was like, I got to go to school and work hard. Because he lived in an apartment in our small town, like a small town where houses cost nothing.
Was it okay?
And another guy delivered.
What?
Was
it adjacent to the bowling alley? Because if I was a kid and I met the guy who lived in the bowling alley, I'd be like, that guy is fucking cool.
Nope.
No.
These are people. Some people are like, let you into their house. And one guy, he lived upstairs. He let me into the house. He's like, I got to get my money. And he was like, I was in there in his living room with his little TV on, his TV tray, and he went behind a curtain. And I can only say he was gone extraordinarily long time. And I started thinking, what's going on? What's he doing behind the curtain? I got it. That's the only time as a kid I was like, a few times, I was like, something funny's going on. But like 10 minutes later, he came back with his money and gave it to me. He's like, thank you. Thank you so much. No, I don't know.
What? All right. Was this curtain separating another room?
Yeah,
or was he just standing there? Oh, but the way you told that story first, I thought he was like up against the window.
I heard nothing.
Well,
I smelled hand lotion.
Oh no.
Anyway,
was this man famous actor Dick Van Patten?
Nope. Anyway.
That's a terrible story, Tim.
Well, I don't know if anything happened. I just felt uncomfortable after a while.
Let's assume something happened. I'm not saying you blacked it out or anything, but let's just assume you're right. It doesn't take someone 10 minutes to get their money. You must have been a studly fucking paper boy.
Who knows? Only God knows. Only Jesus knows.
This podcast morphed into a religious podcast so subtly, I didn't even notice it happening. Blessed be our Savior.
Anyway, people run. The guy who's friends with the wheelchair guy, he just shoves him into the ground.
Throws him into literally runs full tilt. Stop short. The guy is catapulted into the blob.
And the police officers decided his improv will be goofy, funny police officer. Funny police antics.
Well, the cops go in there. They see the blob, which at this point
it's humongous,
is the size of the entire bowling alley, and the one disposable cop shoots it a bunch of times and gets eaten, and the other guy's like, "Oh, that's a blob." And then you're right, he goes into some wacky shenanigans with what he does next. You're going to talk us through that part.
Well, and Bobby and Lisa go up to the control room and lock themselves up there, and they're stuck
with Mr. Fazio.
With Mr. Fazio, and Fazio's like, "Don't spill my beer up here." Anyway, never mind.
And and they're like, Mr. Fazio's like, you know what I'm thinking? Threesome.
Yeah. Well,
Mr. Fazio.
He's thinking, let's get more high.
He's like, is it hot in here? Should we take our clothes off? It's like, what? Mr. Fazio, put your pants back on. Why are you going behind that curtain, Mr. Fazio?
It needs to be cold to defeat the blob. He's like, no, it's warm in here.
Yeah, wait. So at some point, Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're stuck up there. What else?
They're not in the bowling alley now. They're in the adjacent.
It's ice skating rink. Sorry,
ice skating rink. They move. The two things are both owned by Mr. Fazio and are attached.
It's like
and I guess everyone's been eating at the bowling alley, and now they run into the rink, which is very fortunate.
Yes,
and they're hiding there, and the Blob's trying to get in. It squeezes into vents. They like plug into it and try to electrocute it. It doesn't work. But then
they drop a Coke on it.
They drop a Coke in ice.
Coke and a smile. Not
and
Pepsi.
The ice makes no Pepsi, because the Pepsi would have just made it mutate. Because Pepsi is garbage. But because it's the ice, the Blob retreats. Or rather, the footage of the Blob is played in reverse, so it seems to retreat.
Yes.
And that's when they realize, oh, fucking shit, with the AC.
It's lucky it came to an ice skating rink.
Yeah,
unfortunately. It could have gone next door to the clown college. It came to the ice skating rink.
Or it could have gone to the oven factory. Or the volcano, all the places that would have not helped to make it cold.
The secret location of the secret garden where all the pot is grown.
That's not secret, man.
Back then it was.
Like that's in that town. The way these people act, that pot was everywhere. It's like everyone's lawn was pot. So unfortunately, even though they're in the control room, the spot to make the ice freeze up is not in the control room.
No. Oddly enough.
So in what is weirdly like an act, for a moment, this pretended it was a real movie. Yes. And Bobby has to climb out on ropes and get to where the control is, because if he flips this, he'll pretty instantaneously freeze the Blob. So Mr. Fazio says.
Yes.
Bobby is climbing on the ropes. The Blob is climbing up the ropes.
Those ropes were
Fazio
from
puts
the clown school. Yeah, go ahead.
The ropes are from the clown school. Yeah, that's why he's wearing a big red rubber nose and oversized shoes throughout this thing. And meanwhile, while this is happening, the sheriff's outside, and he realizes they have to burn it.
Want to burn it all down
because the sheriff is stupid.
Give me a newspaper. He hates newspapers.
Yeah, they've doused everything in gasoline, so he wants a newspaper. And they're like, and
the scouts show up. They're alive.
Oh, we forgot to mention that.
But they show up then. They're like, you won't believe what happened to Mr. What's his name? He's got a name.
Dick Van Patten.
You won't believe what happened to Mr. Dick Van Patten. He's like, never mind. I got to burn a newspaper.
Which
damn liberals wrote this story.
What we forgot to mention is there is a scene where, when in the midst of all the vignettes of the Blob killing people, we just pass over the destroyed campsite of the campers. Yes. No sign of anybody, and you're like, shit, they killed like 20 kids. That's insane. But they didn't. They only killed Dick Van Patten, who is a pervert, so needed to die.
Didn't say the Blob killed him. They said, you won't believe what happened.
Yeah, well,
so we'll get to that.
I would say my theory, but apparently I'm stepping on your joke.
You're stepping on my theory.
I'm going to say right now, I'm 100%. That theory is what happened. I know what you're going to say. Yeah. The clacker theory is what happened. I'm going to watch that movie again because there's probably a clue.
Yep. So
Bobby gets to the switch.
Pulls the switch,
and he freezes it. And surprisingly good special effect to the Blob freezing very quickly. And then we cut to outside where the sheriff is still amusingly trying to light. Yes. He's like, this lighter doesn't work. He gets a lighter from one of the Boy Scouts who actually
his lighter's worn out from lighting out those joints.
Yeah, he's like, were you lighting J's with this? Were you spliffing blimps and other things with grass? And it's very lucky he can't do it, because as he's finally about to light this fire, Bobby comes running up and he's like, hey man, we froze the Blob. He's like, oh shit.
And I would like to say Bobby in this, I didn't say it yet. Bobby in this, he's a famous character from Star Trek. If you ever saw the original story, Charlie X. If you saw Star Trek, he was a character. He was a kid with powers, and if you were like rude to him, he'd make your face disappear.
Oh my gosh!
He did that to one.
Why didn't he use those powers to stop the Blob?
It's called acting, George. Just wanted to say he's famous.
I wouldn't call this acting. Savage.
So the sheriff rambles on at the end because he's high. He's just telling a story.
Well,
what?
They come in, they see everything's frozen. He's like, "Wow, it's sure a big blob." And the news reporters are there, and they're like, "Hey, we know that you. Let's put a hot light on this ice thing. Don't try to like establish the scene or anything. Just why don't you talk right now? And he gives this weird rambling speech about America or something. And while he's doing this, the light makes the blob fall apart, and it goes on his foot, and like the movie ends with him looking down and going like, and that's the end. The end. And I was outraged.
But did you like it?
I loved it. I really did actually like this movie. What do you think happened? Do you think they saved the sheriff? Do you think the blob got loose from that little bit and killed everybody?
Well, if you read what I read, Jack Harris was writing on the next movie.
And this movie
what did I say?
Made like $1.
Writing on.
He
was writing the next movie.
Well, let me tell you, I've been writing on this, but I reckon.
But it didn't happen.
Oh, it's too bad. I really, it's a mess.
It is.
But there's also some fun stuff happening in it. Like, you don't see too many improv films, and this is definitely almost entirely an improv film. Yeah, it's people having fun. It has nothing to do with teenagers.
They're teenage hippies.
Or high school. They're not. Hippies. They're definitely not. I'm surprised. I am surprised there was not gratuitous nudity. I would have thought for sure this movie would have had a couple of hippie boobies.
Maybe Jack Harris is one of those old school producers. I don't know if he ever did nudie cuties.
I was wondering. I kind of almost thought like maybe this was a made-for-TV job, but it wasn't. I looked it up.
Nope.
Even the naked Turkish guy running through town, like you kind of never quite see his butt.
No.
Yeah, you're kind of like he could be wearing just a Speedo. It's hard to tell.
He tried.
Yeah, it's another movie adding to the ranks. Probably too good for Zeddy
No,
Bimka.
Come on, this is not too good. John, if you're listening, check it out. This is not too good.
John, we'll revisit this. We'll do Beware the Son of the Blob. It was certainly entertaining.
We should do.
Like, I think once I realized I couldn't take notes, I enjoyed it better. Trying to keep track of this was a bad idea. And just surrendering to the blob is like, yes, now it works.
Quiz time.
I'll call it
the BIMCO
SETI Q&A.
Brain twist.
Answering quizzes.
Theme song. Do you like quizzes, John?
I do love quizzes.
Brainstorm.
I'll call it SETI Q&A.
Brain twist. The BIMCO. I love quizzes. Answer the BIMCO.
I'll call it theme song. No.
So we did a wild card question. I did this at the beginning so we could think about it, and I totally forgot it.
I randomly chose a number. Shit, what the fuck was it?
It was the number
Broadway
I chose musical, right? Broadway show?
Broadway musical. Yes.
Wait, is it musical?
Was it a musical or Broadway show?
You picked number 20. Oh, just end up on Broadway.
What end up on Broadway? I would say, actually, I got it. It. The sequel, Beware the Son of the Daughter of the Blob. It's climax, because the first movie, I don't know where that ends.
Right.
The second movie, it ends in a bowling alley catastrophe. Weirdly, there is the scene earlier where Chester is watching the first movie. So I would say the entire cast, in a sense, ends up on Broadway, because in the third movie, there is a live musical production on Broadway of Beware the Blob.
Okay.
And all the new characters that we get to know, like Mr. Hooper from Sesame Street, he plays a part in it. And Maude, she's there. And Patty Duke, and all these weird people. They're all there. I mean, all these characters we get to know, and they're all watching this Broadway play. And then the blob drops down out of the rafters and kills them all.
I thought you were going to say the whole cast, they retooled it. They all have a joint in their hand, like the whole time. They're singing and dancing.
I mean, that part goes without saying.
But the whole thing's retooled. They're just really high, and there is no blob.
Yeah.
Sorry.
They
imagined
there's no blob?
They imagined the whole thing. They just wake up the next morning and like, who murdered all these people?
Wait, how about this? How about they have they all, instead of joints,
it's a gateway drug.
These people are using bongs. They're using bongs, and they're never cleaning the bong water. And bong water gets real dank and stinky and dirty.
Okay.
But this bong water has not been changed since 1973. So this bong water becomes this bong water becomes gelatinous, and that is the blob. It is it's a stinky, semi-solid bong water that comes out and harshes your buzz when it gets in your carpet, man.
That's two ideas.
Yeah. Wow. I'm just like, God, I got to start writing this shit down.
Broadway. I think the Blob would end up on Broadway.
Hey, that's what I said.
No, you said they were going to.
Yeah, the Blob kills everybody.
You said they were going to put a show on.
Yeah, they're doing a show, but the Blob kills everybody in the audience.
My show is the Blob.
Tim stole my fucking idea.
My Blob is on stage at the start. He's
like King Kong. Is he in chains?
He's in a container, and this guy's like, I got to make some money because people will pay to see the Blob eat people. So every time he opens the curtain, he's like, the curtain's closed, and he's feeding a body to the Blob, and he opens the curtains, and it won't eat the person. It goes,
shit. It's like Michigan J. Frog meets.
It starts singing, "Hello, my baby." I don't know. What would the Blob sound like?
Exactly like that.
And everybody's like,
you're definitely,
this Blob's not eating anybody. And they all leave.
And they throw acid in his face. You're basically that's kind of Little Shop of Horrors. Little blob of horrors.
And then he shuts the curtains, puts a sign outside that says free beer. And everybody comes in and he's like, okay. And he puts a body into the Blob, opens the curtains.
Uh-huh.
It won't eat the body.
Why is the Blob not eating? Are these does the Blob only eat live prey? Because it sounds like he's killing these people already.
It's like the cartoon, George. What's that cartoon called?
Michigan J. Frog, man. Yes. Come on.
He just goes, hello, baby.
But wait. The Blob won't eat bodies, but does the Blob sing in front of them?
That's why they leave.
Because I would posit if I went and there was like clearly a gelatinous Blob singing, I'd be impressed.
All right. Well, we made these up on the spot. Give me enough, if you will.
All right. What's the next question?
I like yours. They all do we should put this play on. Beware the Blob.
Let's do it.
But they're all just smoking pot the whole time.
Let's do it. And we have to smoke pot too.
What, the audience?
No,
or
like
while we're directing
involved.
it?
Like while we're doing this, while we're acting in the audience, everyone is smoking. As we are recording this, the first legal pot shop is opening up in New York City in like a couple days. So
that won't work.
We'll just do this.
That will not work.
It'll work. It'll be a mess. It can't be any worse than this movie. Actually, it could.
I think it's a great idea. I got to cut this out and not tell anybody.
All right.
Improv Beware the Blob stage show. Can you imagine?
We just throw jelly at people. Actually, that would be pretty cool. I could see like that being something on off Broadway that would like run for 2 weeks and get us mild infamy. Yes. That would work. Yeah.
Okay. Here's the questions that we know about. We knew about for a whole week.
These are the take-home ones. Yep.
Who from this movie would most likely have a podcast later? Do you want to go first?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Edward Fazio.
What?
The man who owned the ice skating rink, who owned the bowling alley, and who had a severe drinking problem that he wasn't even trying to hide. He just would be constantly moving entire flats, not just cases, flats of beer, places to places. And his podcast would just be him traveling around to different parts of the scenic town. What'd you call it before? Middle Central. You were making up some shit pretending this was a high school at all, but it wasn't.
Meadville Valley.
That's certainly not what you said
Meadville
before.
Valley High.
Yeah, you're just making up stuff. So he'd just go around to different parts of this town, which definitely doesn't have a high school, and he'd bring an entire case of beer. And he and his occasional guest host, pervert Dick Van Patten, would sit there and they'd talk about the happenings in this town. They'd talk about the rich tapestry of characters. Hey, Chester, he has a business in the Arctic where he sometimes finds dangerous gelatinous bobs and brings them back. He also camps at his yard. He's probably insane. And then there's that house full of hippies. They're all like 28. They're definitely not teenagers. And then there's that Turkish guy. He keeps looking for excuses to run around naked. It's great. It's called This American Life.
You should have made me guess.
I didn't want to.
It's the only radio show I hear. I would have guessed Prairie Home Companion.
Oh, that's what I wanted to say, actually.
Really?
That's the Garrison Keillor one, right? Yeah, that's what I meant. Damn it!
It doesn't matter. You messed it up. You messed it up.
Yeah. Messed up.
You could have done better, George. No, that was good, though.
This American Life worked.
I want them, but if they're going to do that show, they got to visit the barbershop. That was the most unexplainable.
Oh, that guy was definitely a serial killer.
Yeah, there might have been a body out back, and he was just...
he was so abusive. I hated him. Glad he got eaten by a blob.
So my choice for podcast, because that scout, young scout, remember he said to the sheriff, "You won't believe what happened to our scout leader." We never really found out what happened. And here's what I think happened. And this is what leads to the podcast. Bear with me.
Yep.
It was Scoutmaster Edelman. That was his name.
Oh.
He liked fighting hobos over whatever trinkets they had. That was a hobby of his. Okay.
Wow. Hey, Dick Van Patten likes to throw hands with hobos? Who knew?
Scoutmaster Edelman. So when Hobo Larry Hagman came around the campsite, Scoutmaster Edelman wanted the hobo's homemade watch, which was made out of mud, pebbles, and pig hair. He said, "That looked nice next to my homemade newspaper made out of driftwood and coffee grounds I got off a hobo in Colorado last year."
All right.
So Hobo Hagman eyed all the clankers that Edelman had taken from the kids and grunted that he would like to have those shiny balls and put some mustard on them. Thus,
from their little hot dogs,
Thus, Scoutmaster Edelman fought the hobo over who would win all these trinkets, and sadly, Edelman lost. Scoutmaster Edelman lost a finger to the hobo, who bit it off, and then the hobo Larry Hagman went in for the kill and tried to put sand down his pants, but the Scoutmaster was able to hide in a cave where he became stuck.
I didn't realize
he was stuck in the cave.
Sand in the pants is a fatality.
Well, he was just stuck there. The hobo took the clankers and went to hang out with Burgess Meredith. And the scouts wanted the sheriff to help get the Scoutmaster out of this hole he hid in. But in all the excitement about the frozen blob, nobody went back to check on him until a few days later. And when they got to the cave, he was never to be seen again. He was missing, gone. Thus, the kid grew up and now has a podcast about the pain of losing a beloved Scoutmaster. But nobody calls in or writes into his show because nobody has experienced losing a beloved Scoutmaster they cared about. There's only one strange loner that calls in every week by the name of Mr. Cablasto. He always talks about how he wanted to join the Scouts, but he wasn't allowed to because he was a Protestant and the Scouts met in the Catholic Church, so his parents wouldn't let him go. So really the podcast is mostly about Mr. Cablasto calling in and crying each week.
A lot of in-jokes here.
They do talk about Scout badges and how he was the last Boy Scout to see the Scoutmaster live in the moonrise that night before he moved to Beverly Hills to be a Scout.
Wait, who, the Scoutmaster or the kid now?
This kid has grown up and has his podcast. He talks about how he was the last Boy Scout alive in the moonrise that night before he moved to Beverly Hills to be a Scout. Thus the podcast is called
Moonrise. Yeah.
It went off the rails. What's this called?
It's going to suck.
Huh?
This is going to suck. What's it called? Seti Bimco.
The Last Boy Scout.
Wait, really? Because you literally said the Last Boy Scout. Like, he's not going to make it the Last Boy Scout. Tim.
Or Troop Beverly Hills or Moonrise Kingdom.
Oh, God. Everything with the kids, with a scout you could think of.
All right. I could have done better. I could have done better, Tim.
I will say this. In all seriousness, I am pretty sure you're almost correct in that what happened to Dick Van Patten, noted pervert, was that Larry Hagman and Burgess Meredith and Del Close killed him. And I think if we watch that scene set in the chicken coop closely, you will probably see a clue beyond the clackers. I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
Yep.
They hinted at it.
Maybe, yeah. I didn't get it until just now. I mean, I think your podcast idea is maybe less canon, but they probably didn't know what podcasts were in 1972. But all right, what's the next question?
Who'd have a spin-off TV show?
Oh, the spin-off TV show I'm going to pitch is the one with the adorable kitten in the beginning.
Really?
Now, bear with me. The kitten seems like it was not a major player of the show, but that kitten, uncontested, held the screen for like the first 5 minutes of this movie. Mm-hmm. So far as we knew, this kitten was the only main character.
It had a theme song.
And during that time, had a theme song that involved people screaming, as all cat songs should. And during that time, we, the viewer, we had a chance to, we looked at this cat. This cat had star power.
Fell in love.
And we're like, what did this cat, we fell in love. We're like, this cat, what's this cat's inner life? What is this cat going to do? Is this cat going to save the day? Is this cat going to be the Blob? Now, as we know, the cat is dragged off by the Blob. But what we don't know is the cat uses some tricky cat ninja stuff to escape the Blob, moves off to New Orleans where he joins a jazz band, and that is the spin-off show.
But he lost one leg,
it's called Cat. No.
Okay. You want me to guess the name of the show?
What is it?
Katney and Lacey? Is that what you're going to say?
No, it's good though. I was going to say Cat in a Hot Tin Roof.
Oh, okay. What does he play? I'm sorry, I stepped on your joke.
He's in a jazz band.
But
that's what you do when
what's
you
he
go
play or she play?
bongos.
Okay.
It's a really shitty jazz band.
With one paw? He lost a paw.
With one,
Come on,
yes,
he lost a paw.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I got the yes, Andrew. Yeah, lost a paw. But here's the fun part, Tim. What you didn't realize, because of the way the cameras were shot, this was a weird spider cat. Had fucking 8 legs, so it still had 7. 7 legs. It's a goddamn freak of nature.
Okay. I guess I got a yes and you. That means he could play 2 bongos. Come on.
He can play 4 bongos. Holds it like with its legs. It's just insane. Yeah, that cat was very talented.
But
also, that cat's dead now because that was the 1970s.
no, don't make me sad.
Dead. That's very sad.
But it would only
everyone in this movie's dead.
He would only play bongos when the curtains are closed. When they open the curtains, he would fall on the floor and pretend to be dead.
Yeah, but weirdly, he would eat a human body in front of you. So he was at least better than the Blob that way.
Yeah.
Tim, important question: is Shirley Feeney dead?
Yeah, they're dead. They had no way out of that. I assume they could run the other way, but I don't know.
In real life?
Oh, in real life? No, I don't think so.
Nope, she's still alive. She is the only person involved in making this movie.
She was in the Patty Duke special. She played the villain. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, John. If you're listening, you weren't here for Larry Hagman and Patty Duke star Shirley.
This really is.
What's her
John
name?
should have been here for this episode.
Yeah.
Well, the character's name is Shirley Feeney.
Yeah.
I think her name is Cindy Williams.
Yeah, Cindy Williams. Sorry. All right.
Yeah. Wow. Look at me. Look at me schooling you on 70s TVs. Finally, I know something.
I never watched that. I watched that a little bit, but not much. Who would have a spin-off TV show? Oh, you did yours.
Yep.
Now mine. Commit to character. It's hard to commit to character because you're not like feigning death like John does when I read this. And I'm like, don't laugh. John's pretending to die.
Oh, he's pretending?
Because my stories are so long.
Yeah.
So I think Edward Fuzzy, what's his name? Fazio, the manager of the bowling alley, and Bobby, his arch enemy, they have a spin-off TV show. It's a show
Ooh, is it called?
where they keep running to each other all the time. So, Bobby knocks over Edward's beer or makes him drop his beer, or in some cases makes him vomit up his beer. And through some contrived reason, Bobby has to get a job at the bowling alley on the weekends when he's not in high school. After all, the Blob...
how dare
the Blob
you?
Killed...
There's no high school.
The Blob killed all the bowling alley workers. And it's hard to find someone who majored in bowling alley sciences, especially in a town where everyone is high all the time.
And dead. Like, as you pointed out. Yeah, or dead.
So Edward is his boss, and Bobby is a kid with so many friends. He has like 8 friends, and 8 is enough when it comes to friends. They always come over and got high. I mean, more high than usual with Bobby. And that wacky Russian guy would always come by and drink beers at the bar and make wisecracks with that man in the wheelchair who everyone calls Mr. Legs. They're very cruel. Mr. Legs' catchphrase was, "Hey, I just flew in from Chicago, and boy, are my arms tired. But the landing sucked because I'm paralyzed, and I really ate some dirt when I landed, if you know what I mean." That's his catchphrase. They'd all laugh. The audience would laugh.
I thought it would have been, "Hey, I'm walking here," but yeah.
Sometimes he'd say that. Season 2.
Okay. And that's New York episodes.
I wrote too much. Edward was a neat freak, and Bobby was very messy. In fact, Bobby never pooped in the toilet. Just 1 foot to the side of the toilet, and Edward would always say, "Bobby's high again," and the audience would laugh. And Bobby lost his girl Lisa. Bobby lost his girl Lisa and was always living single, just like Edward. Edward was single because his house smelled like he had spilled beer all over the carpet, which he had.
Also, Bobby kept shitting outside the toilet.
They were ill-fitted to each other, a real odd pair. They just had to make a living, though. They changed the name of the bowling alley to Everybody Loves Bowling. One lane in the alley was called Firefly due to the fact that the sheriff set it on fire one night while he was detoxing.
Oh my
What's
God.
this show called, George?
The Simpsons. The only show you didn't fucking mention.
It's called Fire Walk with Me.
Oh, you're a jerk.
Anyway.
So when you were clearly talking about The Odd Couple and you had the weird detail about him shitting outside the toilet, is that an actual detail from The Odd Couple?
Of course.
Felix doesn't shit in the toilet?
That's the whole premise of The Odd Couple. You never saw an episode? Oscar would poop in the toilet. Felix would not poop in the toilet. And they were like always at odds about that.
Where would
why do you
Felix
think Felix? Why do you think Felix's wife kicked him out?
Probably because he stole money from that guest of yours at one time. Stole a brownie.
That's right.
And she found
Didn't
out.
pay for that brownie.
Yeah. It's Theo Peck, right?
Yep.
Shout out to former guest Theo Peck. Back when you had guests.
Shop at Peck's. Get a muffin. Get a sandwich. And watch out for those birds. They steal the dog treats.
That's also a problem.
All right. You've seen The Odd Couple.
All right. God. I have, but I don't have great knowledge. Like it would surprise me if that was actually an aspect of it that like he wouldn't shit in the bathroom. But I'm also like, I guess he's anal retentive. That could be a joke.
One episode, Oscar pooped in the bathtub, and it was everything was all messed up.
You're kidding, right? No, they didn't do that back then. Why am I even asking? My one clear memory of The Odd Couple is I was homesick from school, and I was watching it because there was nothing else on, and like it was like a court case or something, and Felix. That's
assume.
Assume. Oh, he does one. You make an ass of you or me, and that was the first time I'd ever heard that little bone malt, and I was like, "That's very funny."
The audience loved it.
Did people like freak out? Like, just was it like when like that famous movie like of just like the steam train back in the silent era, and like people would run it? It was like
people laughed and fled the theater.
Like, did you call me an ass? And like they were like ripping up their seats in their house, and like that's why Tony Randall had to like join the Witness Protection Agency, right? Because it's like I assumed I don't think I'm an ass. God, the amazing history of the fucking Odd Couple.
Oh, if you want to write us, email SETIBIMCO with an E at gmail.com. It's me and George, and sometimes me and John. John will be back, I think, 2 weeks. You can listen to SETIBIMCO anywhere. YouTube, Apple, or on Instagram, SETI_BIMCO. I better find out my Mastodon name because I'm off Twitter. I don't know. Every day there's some new Twitter thing happening.
Yeah, Twitter's bad. Don't be on Twitter, people. Twitter's bad.
And I think you're here one more week. So did you have a movie ready?
I certainly did, Tim. And in a way, you helped me decide what this movie is going to be.
It's about teenagers.
By refusing to read my letter for so long, we are going to revisit the 1987 live-action movie, Masters of the Universe.
Love that movie.
All about He-Man and his land. He-Man land.
I hope there's a Skeletrain in it. I hope they could afford it.
Man, I don't think so, but we'll see.
Teenagers
everywhere. This movie
I hope so.
Has actual teenagers.
Have they been in anything else?
Nah.
Okay.
I think one guy was in Star Trek. The girl might have been in something. I don't know, but probably nothing of note.
Is Hitler in this movie?
No, definitely not. Monster.
I'll talk to you next week.
All right. Bye. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.
All right.
SETI BIMCO is a podcast by Tim Hamilton and John Kelly. Produced by Miss Lee. Music by Tim Hamilton. This has been a Pity Party Line production.
Party line. It's a party line.
Wait.
Yeah, I got this great movie about teenagers that we should watch next. I actually just thought of one. It's called
I'll edit out.
Cocoon.
I'll edit out the time.
It's called
what?
It's called Cocoon.
Cocoon.
Or how about On Golden Pond? How about that? Let's watch that.
Are there teenagers in it?
No.
I bet you there is. We can figure it out.
I don't think there is. I can't think of one offhand, Tim, so I'll send it to you in the next. If you want, I'll record me saying it so you can add it on to this episode.
All right. You can pick one now.
All right. I don't know one.
Well, that's the end of the show. George is out of control. That was a movie. About being high
Blob.
all the time.
The Blob.
All right. I will talk to you next week. I will talk to you next week. I sounded drunk when I say that. I will talk to you next week.
I'll talk to you next week.
People don't do that anymore. That was the 50s. What was that in the 50s? People that you were drunk if
That was
you
because
hiccuped.
that's because everybody drank just a gin straight from the bottle. They'd chug it.
That makes you hiccup?
Yeah, man, it's all that juniper.
That's what they drank in the 50s?
Yeah, it's
You're
all
just making that
gin
up.
and tonics. Nah, I knew all about the 50s.
I tried to tell you about the Odd Couple and then you make up stories. All right. Okay, George, bye.
All right, fine, bye.